everyone. Today I have a great opportunity to talk to Anouar El Haji, who is the founder and CEO of the company called Veylinx, which is headquartered in Amsterdam. I had a chance to learn Anouar during the conference, Marketing Research in the Mobile World in London, where he presented a disruptive idea for marketing research of using auction process for a development of pricing strategy, concept for screening, claim testing, and product evaluation. Anouar, thank you a lot for the opportunity to have this interview today. First of all, I would like to ask you about your company and your key idea.
I started working on the idea while I was still a PhD student at the University of Amsterdam. So basically the idea comes from the frustration that, in traditional market research, you often rely on respondents, what they have to tell you. So whether you're using surveys or you're listening on social media or you have focus groups, you're always relying on consumers, whatever they're telling you, that they will also act on that. Now, it turns out there's actually a lot of evidence that shows that what people say in a survey or in any study doesn't necessarily correspond to what they actually do. And this is, really a big problem. It's also
called, yes.
It's called the hypothetical bias. And actually the only way to solve that problem is to make the research as real as possible. Specifically, the part where they need to indicate how much they're willing to pay for a product, so how much do they value a product, they really need to commit to that. And the way how economists have solved that issue is by using auctions. So economists have been using for decades now these special type of auctions. So these are not like the auctions that you see online. These are sealed bid auctions. So when you participate in such an auction, you don't see what other people are placing as a bid. And these auctions, when you win that auction, you don't necessarily pay your own bid. So and the reason why they're using these auctions is they have this very interesting number of properties. So first of all, these auctions are real. So when you indicate how much you value a product in this auction and you win the auction, then you actually have to pay. Now, the problem is for many, many decades, these economists have been conducting these auctions in a laboratory environment. So they would invite students and they would give the students money to participate in these auctions. So it was quite artificial. And then I guess, and I was quite surprised, I was the first to, bring that idea to life online, for a wider application.
Yes.
And actually Veylinx is also the first to use these auctions for market research for companies, because the auctions have been used for academic research to understand what people are willing to pay for a number of products in a very artificial settings. And we're really the first to apply it, to real world cases for companies who are struggling with, very fundamental questions as how should we price this product, or how should we present this product, who is willing to pay most for this product. And that's what we did. We built a platform to make these auctions possible to be applied for market research.
This sounds really great. I have a couple of questions too, actually. The first one, so you mentioned that it's not mandatory for participants afterward to pay for the bid. So in which case do they pay for a bid, and in which case not?
So there's a distinction between having a product that's already on the market and a product that's still in a concept phase. So when the product is already on the market, then if you win the auction, you actually have to pay. So so as a winner, so you place the bid, let's say on the new iPhone, you place a bid of $600. Then you will be required to pay an amount that is below $600. So the second highest bidder determines the price. So if the second highest bidder is $500, then you will have to pay $500. However, You also have the case that you want to study a product that's not on the market yet. So a lot of people think, well, then you cannot use an auction. Well, actually, we do use the auction also for products that are not on the market yet. And the way how we do this is by telling the participants beforehand that they're going to be bidding on a product that's not on the market yet. However, if the product is launched before a particular date, usually 3 months from the start of the study, they will be required to pay and they will be actually sent the product. But it depends on whether actually the product is being produced or not. In many cases, the concept, the probability that the concept is going to be actually launched in the market is very, very small. But from the perspective of the respondent, it's still positive. So that means there is still a chance that I end up in a situation actually paying for it. So in that sense, you keep it still very, very real. It's also in one sense comparable to a Kickstarter campaign. So in a Kickstarter campaign, you're already paying for something that doesn't exist yet. However, with the Kickstarter, you pay beforehand. But in our case, if the product is launched, you only have to pay afterwards.
Yeah, my question actually is what happens in case you do some concept testing?
So what we have is called a concept auction, and that means before the respondent actually participates in the study, we tell the respondent you're going to be bidding on a product that's not on the market yet. However, to make it real, because that's really important as part of the concept of an auction, we tell the respondent that if you win the auction, then you only have to pay if the product is actually launched before a particular date. So even if the probability is very, very low that the product is going to be launched, from the perspective of the respondent, there is still a probability that you will have to pay. So that makes it still real for the respondent, and ensures that you still have the incentive to respond honestly in an auction.
And in case of the claims, how do you communicate it?
So what we do, it can be in various ways. You can have a simple visual, so a simple advertisement with a description with it. But you can also do a video. So you have a service or a product. So you show them first a video and then they bid on the product.
But if it's just an idea, so you still add some pricing component in it, right?
So it depends. I mean, you can also have just a description of the idea of the product and present that. But we know from experience it has more appeal if you have something more visual, because that people base their valuation not only on the functional requirements of a product, but also on how it looks like. So we always recommend our clients that they at least have a visual a visualization of the product.
And at the end of the day, you ask respondents to make their decision which way, so purchase decision, right? So it's a decision for which we afterwards we're ready to pay.
Yes, so they have 6 minutes time to indicate how much they're willing to pay. And the study takes usually 1 or 2 days. So they would get maybe an email in the morning about the product, and then we would close the auction at the end of the day.
Okay, clear. And in terms of the profile of respondents, so where do you recruit respondents for your research?
So I mean, we do these studies, across the globe. We work with, well-recognized panel agencies. So they have, so we're working a lot of agencies that have respondents that are trained to participate in these auctions. And the nice thing about it is that it's universal, so you can use it in any language, so everyone understands the concept of willingness to pay. And sometimes the client wants to focus on a specific target group, and that possibility is there. So we can screen for a particular target group and have those participate in the study.
Okay, great. Could you please tell me a few words about your cases which you have by now?
Yes, so we have a number of cases. I mean, clearly most of them that we've done for our clients are confidential, but we have some well-known cases that we made public. So there is one case we did for Philips they have a coffee machine called the Sarista, and they made this coffee machine in collaboration with another brand, a coffee brand called Douwe Egberts. And there was some struggle going on about which brand to choose. So they made a decision, and this was before we this was before we conducted the study, to use Douwe Egberts as the brand, the new brand for the whole coffee machine. So not only the coffee, but also the coffee machine. We did a study afterwards where we showed one group of participants the coffee machine with the Philips brand, and another group of participants the Douwe Egberts brand, and asked them how much are they willing to pay. And what we found out is that consumers were willing to pay up to 30% more if they saw Philips as the brand of the coffee machine. And when we showed them the findings, they were really surprised, because they went
fascinating.
they went through this whole elaborate process. But when you really commit respondents, to actually put their money where their mouth is, you find that they simply trust brand as a consumer electronics brand, and that worked best. Even though they probably had plenty of data to make a decision to go for Douwe Egberts, but actually they should have gone with Philips as a brand.
Yeah, this is really great. Do you have any other cases more related with the pricing and how you understand the price for new product launches, for instance?
Yes, definitely. So we have an interesting case we did for a startup. They invented, well, it's not really an invention, but they came up with a small device, and it's called the Air Mode. And the device has a single button that you could connect to your iPhone. And it could do anything, So one way to use that button is to make a selfie. Another way to use that button is if you lose your phone and you want to find where the phone is, you would click the button and it would make a sound. They had a very nice design, it looked very futuristic. And they approached me and they said that they are planning to launch it for $80 per piece, $80, 80. But they weren't sure yet because they still had to decide their manufacturer. They still had to make a lot of decisions. So price is very important here. So we did a test. And what we found out is that consumers weren't willing to pay more than $20. That was really the limit, $20, and then you only have a very small fraction of the market. And this was, super surprising because they assumed that they would be able to sell for $80. And this reality check changed everything because you know how much you can sell it for, then you know how low your cost should be. And that determines who you choose as your manufacturer. That also determines who you need to target. So it has a huge implication. But fortunately, in this case, they did the study before they made the important decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. Sounds really, really great. Probably last question. As my blog, Best Insights Sphere, is targeted to combine both academia and practice, I think that your case, your personal case, is also very inspirational for people, especially for those who are doing PhD. Could you probably provide a bit of advice for PhD students, how to, in the future, probably go to industry and how to combine academia and business environment?
Yes, so I remember being, as a PhD candidate, I was exposed to many ideas, and many of them are very complicated. And the nice thing is, you have the time, you're able to focus on these ideas and really understand them. However, if you want to turn an academic idea to, practice, you want to be applied, the number one thing that you always need to take into account is simply that you should be able to convince others with the idea. So when you think you found something really cool and really nice idea, you should focus on one aspect of it, one very simple aspect that you can convince others. So, for example, the idea of the auctions is actually based on a pretty complicated theory from game theory. There is a victory auction, and it can become very complicated. But that's not how I present it. What I focus on is simply that it's real. And everybody understands that. And that is really something that I learned from my experience, because I remember clearly when I gave my first presentation about Veylinx, I started to, you know, have formulas and and tables, and that wasn't very helpful, because what really works is when you find an idea, and that can be, you know, incredibly motivating and inspirational, and you can become super passionate about it, but you shouldn't forget that you also need to convince others of the idea. And not only clients, but also you want to build a team around you to really put it into practice.
Sounds great. Thank you a lot for your time. Thank you a lot for sharing your idea. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Bye.